everyone. So we are joined by Dr. George Dwapanyin, who is a Ghanaian researcher based at the University of St. Andrews and a long-standing collaborator at the Ghana Photonics and Optics Lab, which we are right now. Hi, Doc.
Hello, Abna.
Welcome to GPOL.
Thank you for having me.
How does it feel to be back?
It feels like home,
Hey.
Yeah, apart from the heat, which I'm now enjoying. I'm taking all the heat that I can so that when I go, I recycle it and use. But it feels good to be back home.
Okay. Doc, let's start the conversation. Let's take it back to your love for physics. When did it actually start?
Well, my love for physics, so it's a funny story. When I was in secondary school, I didn't really like physics. But then when I went to University of Cape Coast, that was when, I had a choice. I read physical science. So I had a choice to either major in mathematics, chemistry, or physics. Chemistry was a no-no for me. I still don't like chemistry, don't tell them. Mathematics, I got to a point I said, look, if you do physics, you know maths, but if you do maths, you will know physics. So I'm like, okay, let me do physics, then the maths will come, right? So that was when I started to do physics. And once I was in it, I decided failure is not an option, so you just have to work for it, yeah. So UCC, I'll say.
Okay, now let's talk about UCC. When you were there, was there a moment that really shaped your direction, particularly in the research area that you picked?
Yes, I remember when we were in final year, right? So final year in UCC is where you choose your electives.
Yeah.
So a couple of friends and I we were the executives of the FISAC then. So we were sitting there. We rushed because I think there were two electives there: microprocessor technology and then photonics. And the professor who handled photonics, we had heard of him but not seen him, Professor Dwapanyin. Very nice gentleman. But people said, hey, Professor Baswa's course. So we were all shaking because we needed the grades. So we all rushed to go and pick microprocessor technology, which we felt was the easier option.
Okay.
And then one professor came, Professor Egan, he asked us what we chose. We told him, then he explained what photonics was all about. The prospects, how much it will cost you to learn photonics and the rest. And then we're like, so we want to change the elective, right? And then we all chose photonics and we got the knowledge, got the grades, and that's how it comes. I've stayed in photonics for now. So it was that encounter with Professor Egan and the foundation by Professor Maswa that led me to continue in photonics.
All in UCC?
All in UCC.
After that, you went to Germany, to Spain, to France, to South Africa. These are international research.
So they say.
Now in the UK. But how did one opportunity lead to the next? And what did each of these opportunities teach you?
Well, so when I finished UCC, I went to atomic energy. I did my service at atomic energy. And as young guys, everyone wants to bother, right? So we had some seniors in front, ahead of us who had gotten scholarships to study. So I asked a couple of them. One good friend, Dr. Archer, he's currently also in the UK. I asked him, Charlie, what's up? How did you go about it? And he mentioned this Erasmus Mundus scholarship. So while people were busy, that was the era of when internet cafes were there. People were doing Yahoo. Some of us too, we wanted to bother. So that was when I started reading about it, and then I applied for one program. It was the Europhotonics. I applied. I was fortunate to be selected. I was the only African in the class. And it was the first batch. Right, so 2010, I was fortunate to be selected. And that had a mobility program for the Erasmus. There's always a mobility where you move from universities. You are not allowed to do it in one university. So there was a choice to either do it in two or more. And you have to, it's a whole tedious thing, but by God's grace, we were able to go through it. So that was what took me through France, Germany, Spain. Right, so for my masters, it was these three countries where I did it. It was tedious, but it was fun in a way. Right, so that's where the opportunity started coming from. And for my masters, I specialized in biophotonics because I loved biology, I still do, but I wanted to see how light technologies would translate into biological applications. So I did my master's in biophotonics in Institut Fresnel in France. So from there, that was where I started the scale of instrumentation because I had to build the systems to study them and all that stuff. So that was where the knowledge started. Then fast forward in 2016 when I wanted to do my PhD, in Stellenbosch. The funny thing is, remember I said when we were doing it, the Professor Passoa, who was teaching photonics, he wasn't there. Like I said, he wasn't there. Not knowing he was then a visiting researcher at Stellenbosch University in South Africa. So when I applied, and I also Cape Coast, it tallied. So through him and his work, they knew of UCC and the rest. So I was fortunate to get an offer for a PhD, which was also biophotonics because they were now also venturing into biophotonics and trying to build a system. So my PhD involved building a microscope for the department to study biological tissues from linear microscope. A whole lot of things I will not bore you with. Then I finished the PhD and COVID started and I was in Ghana. So during my PhD, I got a chance, because I was a member of OPTICA, I got a chance to attend one of their summer schools in Sweden. And there, I had an encounter with a professor. So I kept it back in my mind and I networked with some of the professors there. So through that network, they shared some open positions, which I saw was directly in line with my background. It was in St. Andrews. So I applied, went through the entire application process. I was fortunate to be selected for a 2-year program. And now, 5 years later, I'm still there. So that's how each one is connected, the networking, the opportunities, and all that. So basically, everything led me to this point. So,
well, with all the exploring you had, is there anything that taught you, the experience taught you within your career?
Yeah, resilience.
Okay.
Right, because it's not easy. The optics field is fun, but it can be equally challenging. Right, so moving from one country to another, different environment, different culture shocks and all that stuff, you need that tough skin to be able to make it. Right? And it's from, those who have moved from the shores of Ghana outside, there's always that culture shock. Aside the culture, there's that academic shock, right? Where in Ghana, the lecturers are trying, but practically we lack some of the resources. So when you get there, you now see the thing there. How to now merge your theoretical knowledge with the practical thing is a bit challenging. So it's always that shock. So with time, that's what it taught me. Like if I move from one country to another, now I don't get that shock as much as I did. Right? Maybe language and stuff, yes, but now unfortunately I'm in an English-speaking country, so that's fine. But the main thing that this thing has taught me is resilience. You need that tough skin to be able to penetrate. And do I have it? A little bit. There's still more that I need to get, but yeah, that's the main thing.
Okay. But through all that international experience, you are still deeply rooted in the Ghanaian science community. What makes you keep coming back?
I feel any fear.
Okay.
I feel any fear, right? Look, like I said, I grew up here. I was born and raised here. So no matter where I go, home is home, right? When I'm here and I have my bowl of fufu and I'm eating, I forget about all the stress outside there, right? So in as much as life there, we've made a home for ourselves there, we also need to remember the fact that there are younger ones who are going through the same things that we went through. And because we didn't like it, right, and the transition was a bit challenging, we need to try to make sure that they have a better foundation than we did, so that they can progress. So that's one of the main reasons why I like coming back home, right? To bring the little knowledge that I have, bring it such that the next generation, when it's time for them to take that step, it's much smoother for them. Right? And that's one of the main reasons why I have strong ties with Ghana. Home is home, like Charlie, come home, they can tweak a cry, it's fine, right? I ate fufu, yummy and pasty, right? So that's aside the culture and being home, there's some skills that we need to transfer to the younger generation. That's one of the main reasons why I do what I do.
Definitely. Well, congratulations on being the OPTICA Global Ambassador.
Thank you.
How does it feel being the first and only Ghanaian from any Scottish university to be appointed as the OPTICA Global Ambassador?
It's great. Right? It's one of the OPTICA and all the other international bodies that come. So OPTICA, SPI, IEEE, they all create this platform to nurture and help the younger ones to grow. So having the opportunity to be an ambassador, to be a mouthpiece for the OPTICA community, as well as serve as a link between them and the global world, it's fantastic. It gives me the opportunity to be able to speak to issues and speak on behalf of issues, table people's concerns. Now, because of the ambassador thing that OPTICA has, and we work along with others. So if I talk of OPTICA, it's not just OPTICA, it's SPIE, right? I'm connected with all of them there. But it's given us the opportunity that now we are able to help the younger ones, right? The upcoming researchers. Through OPTICA and the ambassador position, that's mostly how come some of these things started, right? It was through OPTICA that I decided to come to Ghana to do an outreach. So I connected with Achana and Fabian Roof in Germany, and we started talking, and we are here, right? So if not for the ambassador thing, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to start something that would lead to this. So it's good. We're still, it's an ambassador position for life, so we are still doing what we can for Ghanaians, but it's humbling, so to say. Yes.
Okay. You have actually brought us to Ghana, so let's start with GPO. You talked about the fact that it's through SPIE that you met Tachana, and now you have GPO. But why did you decide to invest your expertise, particularly in GPO?
Well,
and if you can spotlight or go into the relationship, how the collaboration started at GPO.
Okay, so like I said just a couple of minutes ago, when I became the OPTICA ambassador, you have the liberty to do whatever you want. And because I had in mind, like I said earlier, that I do not want the younger generation to go through some of the stress and hurdles that we went through, I decided to do an outreach because, like I said, secondary school, is right? And I realized it's not because my teacher wasn't good. It was because I lacked that capacity to merge the practical aspect of it with the theory. So everything was sounding a bit abstract. And I'm not the only one. If you go to secondary schools right now, a lot of people do not like physics because they think it's abstract, right? So what I wanted to do as part of my ambassadorship was to try to close this gap. And I needed some kind of, a platform. And that's how come I reached out to Achana, right? And then through that, there were conversations already with SPIE on trying to set up an optics lab. So when I reached out with my background, we started talking, discussing on what we can bring, what we can do, what equipment and all that stuff, because the grant was already, being prepared. So the little I could contribute to it, I did, and through that, things started. So it's essentially, we all had the same vision, but we came from different sides and we merged it together.
Now let's talk about the custom built through barrier Raman spectrometer that we have here.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you walk us through what the system actually does and what it really means to Ghanaians to have such a device here?
Well, the system, what it does is actually its main unique selling point, USP, is that as its name, through barrier. Right? So imagine you want to probe something, but that thing is behind a barrier. That barrier being maybe its container. Right? The current techniques will require that you open it.
Yeah.
But if you open it, you've compromised the integrity of the product. If you find out that it is what it is, are you going to seal it again? And if you are selling, are you going to resell it? Or are you going to say, okay, because of this, I'm now going to discard it and the rest? So the plan was to find a technique that would allow us to probe things that are hidden behind other barriers.
Okay.
Right? So that is the technique. So the USB is how we shape the beam, how we manipulate the laser light, such that it gives us the ability to now image what is behind the barrier. I don't want to go through the technicalities. There are papers on it which when people Google through barrier Raman, you probably come across a couple of them, Holly Fleming, Georgina Schleto, Anne Kritzinger. There are a lot of papers there by some of my colleagues that if anyone interested in the technicalities. But essentially it is how we manipulate the laser light to generate a feature that allows us to bypass the barrier and look at what is inside without having to open it. So the system is intact, the product is its original packaging, but you can still do chemical analysis of what is inside without having to pass.
Okay, so beyond the lab, how practical can this help in terms of those within the pharmaceutical companies, those within the alcohol beverages manufacturing companies? How can it actually help?
Well, as you see, it's not a huge device.
Yeah.
So if necessary, right, it can be taken out of the lab into the field. Right, so once the right references are built, which is what the system will be doing, right, over time, what GPO will be doing to build the references. Once the right references are built, samples can be brought from outside the field to the lab to analyze, or the system can be taken to the field. We often prefer the system to be in the lab, although it can go to the field, we prefer it being in the lab for safety reasons. Yeah, because it's a laser and lasers are dangerous, and if it's on the field, you can't really guarantee safety. But if it's in the lab, the workers who would work on it are trained, so it's safe. Right? So, in as much as it can go into the field for practical applications, we would prefer samples come from them. But if people go into the field and collect the samples, come quick analysis, and then we can just analyze them and let you know which samples are original, which samples are questionable, right? And then other analytical techniques can be used to further prove these samples.
How beneficial would it be to these companies?
Imagine someone producing your fake booze, right? Your fake liquor, right? Aside your financial losses, because someone is now tapping into your financial market. There's also credibility loss, right? If you go and you buy your drink and the drink is no longer how you know it to be, you probably won't buy again, right? So the company loses. You are probably at risk, because if what you are consuming is not original, it contains adulterated stuff, right? You're putting your health at risk. So all these, aside the financial losses, there's the health implications, the public health aspect of it. All these things are things that this Raman technique can, help us, start asking the right questions in order to help tackle some of these public health challenges.
But looking at how far GPO has come, how proud are you of the progress so far, and what's there that we are yet to see?
Well, I am not proud of myself, I'm proud of people, right? Because in as much as it's a collaboration, right? So they are the ones doing most of the work. we help where we can and try to work together. But if GPOD was not putting in the effort, we wouldn't be here. So I'm really proud of the GPOD team. Like, there are institutions that have had photonics as part of their curriculum for years, but they've not gotten to where GPOD has in less than a year of the amount of funding it's been able to raise and all that stuff. So look, they've done immensely well, and for us, it's normal work. But for GPOL and KNUST, where photonics is not a thematic research area, for them to be able to pick it up and run with it like how they've done. Charlie, these people, we forgive them some Olympic medal. They've done well, they've done well, and I'm really proud of them.
Now, looking at how far photonics and optics education is in Ghana, where do you see Ghana going in the next 10 years?
Oh, we are running with it, right? Very soon we'll probably have the whole of West Africa, at least, right? Coming to TPOP, because we are aiming to bring technologies that are not in Africa yet, and we want to center them at TPOP and make GPOP the African hub for these technologies. So in the next couple of years, and 10 years is probably even far. The next 2, 3, 5 years maximum, we'll probably have researchers from across West African sub-region and other parts of Africa coming to GPOP for their research analysis.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. Market for your Canada. 5 years time, you'll come and see GPOP.
Okay.
They have the skills and the expertise and the drive, the passion to get it there. And that is what fascinates me about GPOP.
Wonderful. But if there's a Ghanaian government policymaker or an industry person watching right now, what's one investment in photonics and optics you would urge them to make?
Invest in the infrastructure, the equipment, right? Because yes, the technical know-how, there are a lot of Ghanaians who have it. I'm not the only one who's done photonics. There are a lot of us. But many are not coming because the infrastructure is not there. Right? The equipment to build these things are not there. So if the government builds, the technical expertise will naturally come, will flow. So that is all we would ask for the government. Provide the infrastructure, the equipment, the funds to get the equipment. And sometimes even when you try to bring some of these equipment home, the kind of stress you go through, it demoralizes, right? So if some of these, when it's a research equipment that is coming in, if the government can put in some of these things so that if it's research equipment coming and someone, you don't have it, and someone is helping the country with, and Charlie, some of these bureaucracies and bottlenecks, it deters a lot of people, right? So aside the infrastructure, if we hope the government would put resources there, but if it's challenging and someone decides to help with the resources, some of these bottlenecks should be removed so that it becomes a smoother process, and then you can always request for more. But if you request and then you go through all these challenges, the donor would also be a bit reluctant to donate. Right? So let's invest in the resources, and where we can, let's make it quite prudent and accessible for people who would want to invest and help the country that have a smoother way of helping the country.
Absolutely. Doc, you went and came back to give back to the Ghanaian society. What would you tell other Ghanaian scientists who are in the diaspora so they can come back and give back to their society?
Well, the Ghana we left is not the Ghana now, right? There's progress, right? It may not be as fast as we envisage it, but we are moving forward, right? And if we want Ghana to be the Ghana we want, we all need to build it together. So if you're in the diaspora and you have the expertise, come home, right? Come home, just bring your expertise, link up with GPOL, KNUST, whatever institution that you feel you have the network there. Link up, start building something, and bring your expertise back home. Ghanaians will receive it. They've received us nicely, so I'm sure they'll receive any other person who is interested in coming to with a warm arm, and there are people on the ground doing exceptionally well that would take up whatever technology or whatever skill set you want to bring and make sure that it becomes a fruitful venture for all Ghanaians. So if you're in the diaspora and you have this, come on.
Come back home. Okay, finally, this is my favorite question. What would you say to a young scientist who is maybe in SHS, wanting to be like you, wanting to study physics, wanting to go into photonics and optics? What would you say to that particular young person, Moji?
Well, I would say, look, don't be like me, be better than me. Right? That is what I do, be better than me, and it is possible. Right? When we started, we didn't have a lot of people in the field who could give us this guidance. Now there are a lot of us. So reach out, connect, right? Connect with us, ask the questions, and have the passion. It's possible. So just go for it. And don't be like me, be better than me. That's all I ask for you. Right? Be better than me, because I'm also better than someone.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Doc, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
And a big thank you for making us have the field barrier Raman spectrometer.
Don't thank me. Thank the University of St. Andrew for giving us the resources.
Thank you, University of St. Andrew, for
giving us the resources. Yes. And it's not me alone. It's a team, right? So I have Dr. Graham Bruce. I have Dwapanyin, Ande Kretsinga, Kishan Dolakia, Stella Cossetti. There's a whole team.
Okay.
So the fact that I'm here doesn't mean I'm the only one.
You're representing
I'm representing a team, right? It's a whole team that is doing it. The programming, and also there are people who do it. So everyone has a skill set and expertise. So don't give me all the credits. It's a whole team behind working for it.
So a big thank you to the team for making the G4 have this, and we are so grateful for having this wonderful conversation with you.
Thank you for having me.
So this is where we end today's session with Dr. Dwapanyin from the University of St. Andrews. Thank you.